There is no more her in the world. There is no more her in the world. Adapted from true story. Although she has left, there should be traces of her presence in this world. At that time, in 2000, Shanghai was really a bustling metropolis full of dreams and bitterness of countless people. Various and colorful car beauty shops are dotted in the streets and alleys, and each shop is working hard to show off its uniqueness. Some stores boast that they are from the United States, and they are very arrogant, as if they have an extremely high-end background. Some stores claim that they are franchised from Taiwan, and talk about it as if this can stand out in the fiercely competitive market. Which year specifically is it? Time has passed so quickly that it is really difficult to recall exactly now. There was a young man, full of enthusiasm and a bright vision for the future, who boldly tried to start a business for the first time, full of expectations to achieve great success and reach the pinnacle of life. But who could have imagined that the final outcome would be a disastrous defeat? In the past, this young man had mastered the skills of repairing cars through his unremitting efforts, and he was considered to be very skilled in the automotive field. Later, I studied hard and learned various techniques of car beautification. I thought that I finally had the capital to make a career in this industry. After countless days and nights of hard work, I finally saved a little money. This amount of money may seem insignificant to others, but to him, it is a precious key to a better life in the future. Full of expectations, he found a suitable place in Suhui district, happily purchased various equipment, and opened a car wash shop with great success. He was so generous that he hired 2 people generously, imagining that the store would be bustling with people and business would be booming. However, fate always seems to like to give people a heavy blow when they are most hopeful. For the next whole month, it was as if a big hole had been torn open in the sky, and it rained endlessly. The raindrops were like tears that were constantly flowing from the sky, sprinkling to the earth. During this long month, the business of his car wash shop was terrible. The usually bustling streets became deserted, with few cars visiting. In 1 month, a total of 3 or 4 cars were washed, and the tire repair work was even less. In the end, I just couldn't hold on any longer. Men are somewhat concerned about face. The young man was too embarrassed to ask his family for help, so he gritted his teeth and sold everything he could. Finally, he collected enough money to pay the workers. At this time, I felt my pocket again and found that I only had about 30 yuan left in my body. The rented house has expired many days ago, and I can't even find a place that can protect me from the wind and rain and sleep peacefully. I feel like a lonely boat drifting on the vast sea, unable to find a harbor to dock. He pulled the lockbox containing all his belongings with a confused look on his face, his brows knitted together tightly, as if he could pinch a fly, his eyes full of helplessness and confusion, and the steps under his feet were as heavy as dragging a huge boulder. No matter which direction he walked, he felt that the future was dark, and he walked from day to night in a muddle. In the end, I had no choice but to sleep under the overpass for 1 night. It was a miserable night. There were so many mosquitoes that they kept buzzing like a swarm of bombers. He didn't wake up naturally after a full sleep, but was bitten by mosquitoes that hurt and itched all over his body. He couldn't fall asleep at all, and he kept mumbling and complaining about the damn mosquitoes. Even so, life still has to go on, and the road still has to move forward. Even if the front is pitch black, we can only bite the bullet and grope our way forward. The next day, he steeled himself and tried to find a way out for himself. I started looking for jobs everywhere, applying for jobs at one house after another. Every time I went to a house, I had a little bit of expectation in my heart, hoping to get a positive answer. But he was ruthlessly rejected every time, and the feeling of full expectation but failure was like basins of cold water poured on his heart. After looking at one house after another, I suddenly realized that I was so poor that I couldn't even afford a bowl to eat and a quilt to sleep on. In the beginning, his strong self-esteem caused trouble. As long as he felt that the other person's attitude was a little wrong, or showed the slightest hint that he didn't want him, he would turn away and leave, as if this could save his last bit of dignity. Later, I was really desperate, so I had no choice but to shamelessly tell others about my plight, and beg to give him a chance to work first, even if the relevant expenses were deducted from his future salary. But the result was extremely disappointing. They ignored him at all, and rejected him coldly. At this moment, his heart was filled with despair, his eyes became dim, and he felt as if he had been abandoned by the whole world. 2 days passed in a blink of an eye, and the little money I had was spent cleanly. He could only drag his hungry and tired body and wander aimlessly on the streets, feeling that he could no longer hold on. As for whether he spent that night under the overpass or made do in the park, he himself was so confused that he couldn't remember clearly. He only remembered the endless cold and loneliness. On the 3rd day, the situation was still the same, and he kept walking on the street. Some bad thoughts once flashed through his mind, such as stealing things, but his inner moral bottom line always reminded him not to do so. He also thought about simply grabbing things, but he was so dizzy and weak from hunger that he didn't know if he could succeed if he really tried to rob them. After a fierce inner struggle and weighing, he finally kept his moral bottom line and did not do anything illegal or disciplinary. The quality of people varies, and he has to thank those who threw bottles. It was these bottles that gave him a glimmer of hope for survival when he was desperate. On the side of the road, he accidentally saw an empty bottle, and suddenly he remembered the several waste collection places he had passed before. It's already so miserable. Why do you care about face? Just go pick up the bottle. He silently cheered himself up in his heart. Even though I thought so, I still felt very embarrassed when I actually had to pick it up. There were people coming and going in the big city, and he was really embarrassed to pick up bottles in front of everyone. Don't pick it up, but he's not willing to do it. After all, this may be the only way he can think of to make money at the moment. So, he found a place not far away to sit down and pretended to rest. In fact, he was doing some psychological construction for himself and building up courage. After waiting for almost an hour and seeing no one around, he quickly ran over like a thief, pulled up the lockbox, looked around to make sure no one noticed him, then hurriedly stuffed the bottle into the lockbox, then turned around and left pretending to be nonchalant. But actually, he was extremely nervous. They say that as long as you take the first step bravely, the road ahead will be easier. This sounds reasonable, but the actual situation is not necessarily true. That day, he sold the bottles he had worked so hard to collect and made only 1 or 2 yuan in total, 1 and 3 yuan to be precise. Each bottle cost only a dime, and he only picked up a dozen in total. It wasn't that there weren't more bottles around, but there were too many people, and he was really embarrassed to pick them up in front of others. I used this little money to buy a steamed bun that cost 1 yuan. It was so dry that I couldn't swallow it without water. The bottles are sold, and some bottles may still have a little water left in them, so you can make do with a few sips. There is a public toilet not far away, with a wash basin. He waited outside the toilet for a long time to make sure no one went in before he dared to go in, eat a few bites of steamed buns, and wash his face. At that moment, he felt that the steamed bun was very fragrant, and the water in the toilet was very thirst-quenching. On the 4th day, the warm morning sun shone on him, and he slowly woke up from the cold and hard ground. He first subconsciously rubbed his bloodshot eyes, which were sore from not sleeping well for many days, and then stretched greatly, trying to drive away the fatigue and sleepiness in his body. Then, he gritted his teeth, pursed his lips tightly, showed a determined expression on his face, and a hint of stubbornness flashed in his eyes, and once again set foot on the road of picking up bottles, continuing to live this life full of hardship and helplessness. This time, he was a little bolder than before. Every time he saw the bottle right in front of him, even if there were people around him, he would no longer shrink back and be too scared to pick it up like he did at first. Instead, he would wait patiently, and when there were slightly fewer people, he would quickly pick up the bottle and put it into the lockbox. At that time, even though he was so poor, he still cared more or less about face. The clothes in the lockbox used to be of good brands. I also wash my hair. I don't dare to expect to take a bath, but at least I want to look clean and tidy. After 2 days like this, I ate 2 steamed buns every day and drank some free water, and I was able to save a few dollars. But such a life is not a long-term solution. Later, except for toothpaste, toothbrush, towel, and a set of clean clothes, he threw away everything else. Between living and so-called face, he finally chose to live. After all, he had to make room for the bottle. At the beginning, he would carefully check to see if there was anyone around him. After making sure that no one was around, he would rummage through the trash can. When he saw a bottle, he would quickly crush it with his foot and put it in the lockbox. Later, even if there was someone around, he couldn't help but take a look at the trash can. In the end, he simply went to dig through the trash can regardless of whether anyone was around. Several days passed like this, and he finally saved 1 or 200 yuan through frugality. One day, he was so tired that he lay down on a chair in the park. The wheels of the lockbox, which was still usable, were worn out. He had been looking for a place to sleep for a long time, and if no one chased him away, he planned to spend the whole night on this chair. By chance, a girl came to the park for a walk with her friends. As soon as she entered the park, the girl saw him lying on the chair and stared at him curiously for a while, her eyes full of doubts. As for him, he was used to being looked at with all kinds of strange looks every day, so he didn't take the girl's gaze seriously. Out of curiosity, the girl couldn't help but walk over and talk to him. The girl tilted her head with a sweet smile on her face and asked in a clear and sweet voice, "Why are you lying here?" He was extremely embarrassed, scratched his head in embarrassment, and replied in a low voice, I have nowhere to go. This girl has a very good personality. She is not squeamish at all, nor does she mean to look down on him. The two of them chatted for a long time, and the girl's friend got impatient and left first. Through chatting, the girl roughly understood some of his situation, then said goodbye to him with a smile and left. The girl was very beautiful. At the time, he thought she was just a passerby in his life. Later, it turned out that this was indeed the case. After dozens of minutes, the girl came back again, holding a packed meal in her hand. At first, he was very embarrassed to accept it. He waved his hands repeatedly and said, "It can't be done. It can't be done." The girl pouted and said, "You're welcome. Eat quickly." He was very embarrassed at first. The girl's enthusiasm made him a little confused. His panic made the girl giggle. The girl was beautiful, and her smile was like a flower blooming in spring, bright and moving. The girl said she hadn't eaten yet, so she wanted to eat together. Then they opened their lunch boxes on a chair in the park and ate together happily. The girl didn't dislike him at all. He hadn't taken a shower or changed his clothes for several days, and his appearance was simply unsightly. For him, he hadn't had a decent meal for several days, and this meal tasted like a delicacy on earth, and it felt like he was in a dream. After eating, tidying up the trash, and chatting for a while, the girl skipped home. He thought the matter would just go away, but he didn't expect that at 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, the girl came again. This time, the girl held a hotel room card in her hand. He had never stayed in a hotel before. When he went out, he always looked for the cheapest small hotels and had to shop around. The girl blinked her big watery eyes and said sincerely, "I have paid for 3 days of rent, and I can't get it back if I don't live here, so don't waste it." The girl sent him to the hotel room, chatted with him for a while, and then left. When she left, she said she would see him again after school tomorrow. The first time I saw a house with a girl was so thrilling. The girl gave me the money. How could I not remember it deeply and make a joke? Early the next morning, he put on his only clean and tidy clothes, packed himself up decently, and then went out to find a job. His requirements are not high, as long as he can have food to eat and survive. In the end, he found a job as a car wash, which could earn him about 2,000 yuan a month. He didn't remember the exact figure clearly. He used the money he saved from selling bottles to buy some bedding. The boss asked him when he could go to work, and he said the day after tomorrow. In fact, he was able to work right away, but he kept remembering that the girl said she would come to see him after school today and couldn't miss the appointment. At about 6:30, the girl ran over like a cheerful bird. As soon as she saw him, she couldn't wait to talk about a lot of things at school and at home. She kept talking, saying that her family was too busy and had no time to accompany her, with a look of aggrievedness on her face. He listened quietly most of the time, occasionally adding a word or two. To be honest, he usually hates people nagging in his ears, but the girl is different. He likes to listen to every word the girl says. No matter what the content is, just because the girl said it, he likes it. He also shared the good news that he had found a job with the girl. The girl was very happy to hear that. She also asked for the address of the job and told him to pay for the hotel and let him stay for a full number of days before leaving, saying that she would come to see him tomorrow. After he goes to work, whenever the girl is free, she'll come to him and play together. Fate is really a wonderful thing. Things that I thought I couldn't accept or were not used to before have gradually become accustomed to it. He was used to the girl chattering and jumping around, and he was used to the girl sharing every bit of happiness and troubles in life with him. Once when we were washing the car together, the girl was clumsy and accidentally got water all over her body. She pouted and stamped her feet and complained, "Oh, it's all wet." Her cute and playful look made him laugh. If one day the girl had something to do and couldn't come, he would feel as if he had lost his soul and feel uncomfortable all over. I was also in low spirits when I was working, and I had no energy at all. Unfortunately, the good days are always short-lived, and their affair was discovered by the girl's mother. The girl's mother scolded the girl severely, but she was not willing to hit her, but she looked disgusted with him. She even wanted to rush over and beat him. Fortunately, the girl stopped her and cursed her with some very unpleasant words. Fortunately, there were many people in the store at the time, so she stopped after a few curses. After the girl was forcibly taken away by her mother, there was no news for a long time. He only knew that the girl had a house in a school district nearby, but he had never been there. I also knew which class the girl was in. I had waited at the school gate several times, but no one was seen. He knew in his heart that he and the girl were like a toad and a white swan. There was a huge gap. He thought he would never meet the girl again. About half a month later, around 6 o'clock in the afternoon, the girl suddenly appeared in the store like a little fairy. At that time, he was concentrating on waxing the car. The girl tiptoed up behind him, patted his shoulder gently, then playfully put her hands behind her back, tilted her head, and pouted. "Guess who I am?" He turned around and saw the girl, and was stunned for a moment. Then he got the courage from nowhere, hugged the girl, and kissed her forehead. At this moment, the window of a Mercedes-Benz parked at the door rolled down, and a man inside was staring at him, his eyes full of anger. Angrily, he asked the driver to drive away. Later he found out that it was the girl's father. After being brought home by her mother, the girl was under very strict control. Her father personally picked her up from and to school every day. After being brought home, the girl made a lot of noise, just like Neza making trouble in the sea. The girl's father really had no choice but to compromise. Later I made fun of her. Never underestimate a woman who comes during her estrus and rebellious phase at the same time. She is so powerful that even old men are afraid of her. After sending the girl to school the next day, the girl's father came to see him and talked a lot with him, but he didn't embarrass him too much. Finally, he was asked to stop washing cars and arranged for him to work at a friend's bathhouse. When you are a team leader, you have to wear a suit and tie. The first tie was bought by the girl, and the first tie was also helped by the girl. He worked very hard, and within 3 months he was promoted from receptionist to lobby manager. This was due to his own hard work and the help of the girl's father. He thought to himself that he couldn't let the girl face this alone. He bought a lot of management books and studied them seriously whenever he had time. There were all kinds of people in the bathhouse, and he learned a lot of things that couldn't be learned in books. One time I was particularly impressed. 3 generations of a family came to take a bath. The old man went to a special floor, and the old lady went to check out and left first with her grandson. One time when the girl was not around, he quietly asked her, "Why do you always give me money and then leave first?" The old lady said, "It's a lie to say that I don't care. As long as he doesn't mess around outside, it's better than anything else." This should be the pattern of rich people. Most of the time they communicated by phone. Later, the girl gradually became alienated from him. The phone calls became less and less frequent, and the number of meetings was also limited. Finally, the girl sent a message saying that she wanted to break up. He went around looking for places where the girl might appear, trying to figure out why. Maybe they really are not from the same world. Or maybe the girl's novelty has worn off, and she's tired of him. After leaving the girl's company, he went to the factory, and then to the construction site, constantly changing the place where he worked. He kept himself busy like a top because once a person is busy, he has no time to be sad about the past and autumn, and he has no time to think about unrealistic things. More than half a year passed in such a state of confusion. The girl's mother called him in tears, saying that the girl had cancer and that she didn't have much time left, and asked him to go back and see her one last time. The moment he learned the news, he felt as if his whole world collapsed instantly. He was so anxious that he rushed to the airport desperately, holding the return ticket tightly in his hand, his heart already flying to the girl's side. When we arrived at the hospital, there was a heavy and depressing atmosphere in the corridor. He staggered a little while walking, his heart was beating wildly, and every step he took seemed to be carrying a huge weight. The door to the ward opened slowly, and at that moment, time seemed to stand still. The girl lay quietly on the hospital bed, her face as pale as a piece of paper. Her once bright and moving eyes had lost their luster now, and her thin face made people heartache. She breathed hard, and every breath seemed like the last struggle of her life. He rushed to her bedside like crazy, held her cold and weak hand tightly. Tears rushed out like a bursting flood, and his voice trembled and shouted, I'm coming, I'm coming. The girl struggled to raise her eyelids. At this time, it was extremely difficult for her to even speak. She could only use the remaining strength in her body to utter a few words with difficulty. Live well. When she looked at him, she forced a smile out of the corner of her mouth, which was full of nostalgia and reluctance. There seemed to be thousands of words hidden in her eyes, including concern for him, helplessness at the injustice of fate, and nostalgia for the beautiful memories of the past. The sunlight outside the window shone wantonly on her face, but the bright and warm light could not penetrate her increasingly cold body and give her even a trace of warmth. I just stared at her blankly. My heart seemed to be torn apart ruthlessly by a sharp giant blade, and it was painful, but I was so powerless. I can only watch helplessly as her flame of life dims like a candle in the wind, bit by bit, until it is completely extinguished, and I try my best to not be able to grasp the last trace of warmth and keep her alive. The moment I witnessed her being pushed into the cremation furnace, my world collapsed instantly, as if all the colors were fading away in an instant. I held her urn with my own hands and buried her under the silent land. Every step is extremely heavy, and every moment is like a knife. Recently, I accidentally heard that cancer can actually be cured in some cases. At that moment, the grief and anger in my heart erupted like a volcano. Why is this dirty world always so cruel and ruthless? Why did you let me know such news after I had already lost her? I really don't like this world full of regret and pain. She asked me to live well before she died, but since she left, my heart has died with her. I can accept that she may not like me, but I cannot accept that she disappeared without a trace in my world, as clean as if she had never existed. At that time, I was just immersed in endless sadness and didn't even realize that I owed her a grand and romantic wedding. It was the beauty she deserved, but it could never come true because of my negligence. I lived in a certain temple for 3 whole months. I knew clearly that I was escaping from reality like a coward, but what could I do? I am such a weak and incompetent person. What can I do? I can only escape like this, because I am always so powerless in the face of all this. One day, my old mother called, her voice full of worry and longing. Yeah, I haven't called home in a while. My mother's voice was full of tears, and her care and worry came clearly through the phone. The person who accompanied me is no longer there, and I have never had a child of my own, but the person who gave birth to me is still there, and they still need my protection. So I returned home and spent a few months with my family. She said that she wanted to go to the Padala Palace, but when I went into bed, I did not enter the Padala Palace. She also wanted to go to Tianyao Haijiao. I stayed in Sanya for a few years and bought tickets for Tianyao Haijiao 3 times, but I still haven't had the courage to go in. Those promises I once made have now become regrets that cannot be realized, like heavy shackles binding my heart. In the days that followed, I met many people. I have also tried to love them, but they all seem to lack a little bit of sincerity. Perhaps the imperfections and imperfections in life are also a different kind of beauty. The Chinese New Year is almost here. If anyone just needs a marriage certificate to deal with family members, contact me. I don't mind if you're out having fun or how many other men you have. If you don't cause trouble, just bring them back. If you really cause trouble, it doesn't matter. Just tell me to give up my position. If marriage is a task that must be completed in life, then I will also do a task.